Hey everybody, I hope you're doing well today. I have got a video for you, okay? I'm going to call this something like Don't Fret, because this is about frets on mountain dulcimers and how that's changed over the years and what you might want to do when you buy a mountain dulcimer. I get a lot of questions about this, so hopefully this will answer some of your questions. I hope you will watch it with an open mind, okay? All right, before I start the video, I got to tell you this real quick. BanjoLemonade.com is my website where I teach you how to play the mountain dulcimer. All these different fret combinations you're going to see, I have lessons for all of them there, okay? And if you're interested in learning, head on over. I've got a lot of material there for you. All right, let's get into this video. Okay, so let's get started. What you see before you is a history or evolution of the modern mountain dulcimer, okay? So from the left to the right is what I'm going to be talking about here. I'm doing this for instructional purposes because I get a lot of questions about this, and I'm trying to just put it all in one place, kind of like my VSL video explaining what that is and why you should care about it. This is the same kind of thing, but it's about frets, okay? So if you look to the far left there, that is the goat dulcimer, the only dulcimer I've ever placed a name on, and it's called the goat because it is the greatest of all time. It's where we began, okay? I'm going to show you, I'm going to overlay the picture of just this dulcimer right now and talk about it for you, okay? So how it started is what you see here. We have a completely diatonic instrument, which means it only contains the notes of the scale, okay? And we can change that by tuning, okay? So we can change our mode by tuning, but there are no notes that could be played outside of our scale here. Our scale begins at the 3rd fret and goes to the 10th fret. Okay, so at the 3rd fret you see a small space, then 2 big spaces, a small space, a big space to the 7th fret, 2 big spaces, and then a small space to the 10th fret. That is the pattern for a major scale. Okay, starting at that 3rd fret, it would be whole, whole, half. So that 3 to 4 would be a whole step, 4 to 5, whole step, 5 to 6, half step. Then it goes whole, 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 half to complete our scale, right? To actually start our scale again. So the 7th fret there, we have a whole space. Then the 8th fret, whole space, 9th fret, whole space, 10th fret, half space. And that is our do of our do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. We're beginning again with our scale, and the pattern repeats. Whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half, okay? So that's all the frets they needed to put on the instrument to be able to play the whole scale, okay? And another advantage of this is there's no extra frets, so you cannot hit a wrong note that is outside of the scale you are playing. We play this in Ionian mode, and we're tuned to a 1-5-5, and in this case that is D-A-A. So if we were to go down a full step in our tuning to C-G-G, that would still be considered Ionian or 1-5-5 tuning, okay? That's where it all began, and you can play most songs, and I said most, and it's really an outstanding majority of songs that you can play on this, especially with simple melodies, all right? And you play that on the melody string. You don't play too much on the middle or the bass. Now, you can play on the bass some, and that can give you some extra notes, which is nice, and I do that. But, so in this style of play and tuning, we normally have our bass string and our middle string that are droning, okay? Which means ringing out all the time when we're strumming. We don't do a lot of individual note picking in this style of play, however we can. We just usually strum up and down our melody line, fretting the melody line. Now, we do that with either our fingers, or they used to do it with what is called a noter. A noter is just an implement made from either wood or metal, plastic, a bunch of different things that you slide up and down the frets at the melody line, okay? Nowadays, it's much more popular to play with your fingers. Now, we can also chord this in this tuning, and we do that, okay? But really traditional players, you wouldn't see them doing that, and there's even some noter players out there right now, today. So I'd like to mention a noter player right now that I know of. I've never met her, but I know watching her videos and things, she's a very traditional player, and she plays noter drone style and has forever. And if you want to learn any more about that, please go talk to her. Her name is Miss Kendra Ward. Okay, she plays noter drone style. And the next style would be like what is called, well, I've heard this term before. So finger dancing would be using your fingers to go up and down the melody line and not a noter. And someone that I can think of off the top of my head, who I have shook his hand before, but I don't really know him, that's Mr. Don Petty. If you want to find out more about that, check him out. Okay, now I'm going to leave that dulcimer and head to the mid or late 70s, early 80s, 1970s and 80s. That dulcimer there that you see, and I will put that on the screen, has 2 added frets on this instrument, okay? And we have added a fret at the 6.5. That means between 6 and 7. And between the next higher up octave, 13 and 14, would be the 13.5 fret. Now, why did they do that? Well, they wanted to be able to play in a bigger variety of ways. Let's just say that, okay? So they added that fret, and now to play in the same scale, and most commonly that would be DAA, right? In the key of D, they tune to DAD. Okay, so now the scale begins, instead of it beginning at the 3rd fret, the scale begins at the open melody string. Okay, and now that 6.5 fret, that new added fret, is a required fret in order to get our major scale notes. So if you look there at the scale, it starts with the open melody string, and you have 2 large spaces and a small space, right? Whole, whole, half. Then you have the 4th and 5th fret, whole, whole, and we need another whole. So that would go from the 6th fret to the 6.5 fret. That would be our next whole space. And then the half step to the 7th fret there, and those frets are not marked on this instrument. Marker dots are something that has come in the modern era of playing mountain dulcimer. But anyway, so they added that fret, and you'll see we have our same scale, but now the scale is finished and gone to the next octave at the 7th fret instead of the 10th fret, okay? Now, what did this do? This added a note to the melody style of playing, okay? This added a C note that was not found on the mountain dulcimer, on the goat, right? On the original diatonic mountain dulcimer, you could not get that note, all right? So there are songs that play that note, and they wanted to add this note, and I understand it, and they wanted to add, bring your melody down farther along the fretboard so that you could play across all 3 strings. Okay, so you'll see players who play both melody, drone, style, which would be on the melody string. Okay, you'll see players who play that on this fret combination, and you'll see players who play across all 3 strings. You'll see players who flat pick individual notes really fast across all 3 strings. You'll see people who play chords. So there's a large variety of things you can do now with this added fret. There's also, with added tunings, you can play in more modes. Okay, so they've added this 1 fret, and it went on that way for quite a while, and that is the most common configuration you'd see today, I do believe. I could be wrong, but that's fine. It is 2024, which I can't even believe. But so let's move on to the next one. Okay, now the next one, I don't know when this was popularized. Okay? And here we have another additional added fret. Okay, so most commonly still played in DAD or Mixolydian. I forgot to mention that on the last one. That's Mixolydian mode. So looking at that, between the 1st and 2nd fret, there's a fret added. So if you go up to the 7th fret and look at the 8th fret, between the 8th and 9th, there's a fret added. So that's the 8.5. So we've added the 1.5 and the 8.5 to the additional 6.5 and 13.5, right? We've added 2 frets from the goat dulcimer, right? Now, why did they do that? Again, it's the same reason, to play more notes. Now you have a C note at the in the first position of play, where if you were to hold your hands over the first few frets, maybe 1 through 3, 1 through 4, you could span that. Now you've got that same C note in place at the middle string, 1.5 fret. You also have an additional note, which is a really great note, and that is the F note, which is a blue note. So now you've got a lot of bluesy stuff, a lot more chords you can play, things of that nature. Okay, so they moved up to that. Also on this dulcimer, you may or may not be able to see that, there is an electronic pickup installed in it. So that's something that's been added to mountain dulcimers recently, and you may or may not see that today. I don't play with pickups. I prefer a mic'd instrument, but they're there. So you can get them now with or without that, and I'm not going to go into electronics on this video at all. This is strictly acoustic. Okay, so I get a lot of questions right here at this dulcimer. I get tons and tons of questions. Do I need the 1.5 fret? And that is something that is up to you. I'm here to say that I personally love every single dulcimer you see sitting in this picture. I love everybody who plays every single style of fretted instrument out there, basically. But all these 4 dulcimers that you see before you, anybody who plays any of them in any manner that they like, I love that person. And I love that they want to make music. Now, I get a lot, I don't want to say a lot, I get people occasionally, yeah, I need to fix that. It's not a lot. But I do get people occasionally who want to be negative about 1 or 2 or even 3 of these instruments that you see down below you. And I never understand that, ever, okay? I never understand that. They want to be negative or they want to disparage it in some way, and I don't like that. And I don't understand why they would do that. So all you're ever going to get from me is love. If you want to play a mountain dulcimer in any configuration you could imagine, you're only going to get love out of me, because I love it. And I play all of these, and I enjoy all of these. And no, I do not have a favorite. I love them all. They all are different. And I play more than just a mountain dulcimer. You probably already know that just by looking at my name here, Banjo Lemonade. I play more than just a mountain dulcimer. I love all acoustic instruments. Okay? But that's all I'm going to say about the negativity. It doesn't deserve space in this video. Okay, now let's move on to the next one. All right? The next one. And what do you see here? A whole bunch of frets. This is called a chromatic mountain dulcimer. Now, they've been making these for a while, but they're gaining popularity now. Are they very popular? I would still say no. They're not very popular at this point. Might they someday be more popular? Sure. And to me, I also want to show you the goat in comparison with this one. Sadly, and this makes me sad, the goat is getting, they're not making these much anymore. Folkcraft wasn't even making them for people because people weren't wanting them. But now I see it as a drop-down option, and I love that. So you can go order a Folkcraft mountain dulcimer right now and pick diatonic fretting if you want, okay? So it's sad to me that the diatonic, the goat, has been kind of getting forgotten. And I hope that we can bring it back because it's still a beautiful thing, okay? But this chromatic, now, what do you see on the chromatic that is different from the one above it? And that's the 1.5, right? The one with the heart holes, okay? You see a lot more frets. So we now have every fret in Western music, okay? We have 12 notes in Western music. So you see the double dots there, that's the 12th fret, okay? So we've got all sorts of notes. You can go up and down this fretboard and play a song and hit a whole bunch of wrong notes. Now that is a drawback to some people, okay? You can really hit wrong notes and it sound wrong, right? Versus the goat where you really can't. It's gonna sound still okay no matter what fret you hit, okay? It might not be within the chord necessarily, but it will be within the key and scale you're playing in, okay? So that chromatic just offers more notes, even more notes, right? And people will play those melodies across all strings, melodies on the melody line. They will play chords, flat picking, any number, every sort of deal you can see, finger picking. They will finger pick all of these, okay? I don't personally finger pick. They will also, let me get into one more thing. They will also have different string configurations. Now, what that means is they might have a doubled melody, a doubled middle, and a doubled bass. They might have a 4-string, a 5-string, a 6-string, with any combination of that, or they might do this as well. They might have 4 equidistant strings, and that's a whole new world with a bunch of different tunings and things like that as well. So, whole different way to play and everything, right? And you'll see people playing that way as well. So there's a lot of variety in the mountain dulcimer world and a lot of things to choose from. Now, again, with the questions I get, I don't have this fret, or I have these frets. What do I do? Should I get this fret? I get so many questions about this, you guys. I can't even keep up as sometimes, okay? But look, every one of them is beautiful. Every one of them plays a lot of variety of things. And every one of them is a great place to start. I'm not going to tell you not to start with a chromatic. Every single one of them you can learn how to play, okay? Now, if you want to experiment and add frets, you can do so very easily in a number of ways. If you have the one on the left, the goat, the diatonic, you can take a piece of tape, 2 pieces of tape rather, and some wire. You can straighten out a paper clip. You could put a toothpick down. Okay, you could put something in between the 6th and the 7th fret to give yourself a 6.5 and try that out to see if you like it. You could do that. I've seen people doing that. I've done that. I even have a video taking you through it. It's very short how to do it, okay? Then the second dulcimer there that has the added 6.5, I have people who have that dulcimer configuration and want to know, how do I do the 1.5? Well, you can do the same thing. Or you can do this. You can take a capo, okay? Take a capo and slap it on at the 4th fret. And what you now see before you is a 1st fret, a 1.5 fret, a 2nd fret, and a 3rd fret now. Okay, so you already have it on your dulcimer where you can try it out. Okay, so if you put that capo on at that 4th fret, you now can mess around with those blue notes, the added note. Obviously, you're in a different key now, and you're tuned to AEA, if you were in DAD to start with. But it's the same thing, right? We know this about a capo. So, I also have people, saying, Mandy, I've never played. I need to know if I should get the 1.5 or not. I'm afraid of it. I'm not really sure. Okay, again, get whatever you can get. If you want to start there, start there. If you don't. I can't give you too much advice in regard to that. You can learn to play every single one of these fret combinations below. Okay? No one of them, in my opinion, is really, if you look at those 3 on the right, no one of those is any harder or easier. Now, if you go to the left, that one's easier. And why do I say that? I say that because you only play it mostly in the Ionian mode and tune to 155 and get that melody. And all you need to worry about is getting that melody on that melody line and just have fun and strum away and have a blast, okay? Things start getting more interesting as you move to the right. More interesting, more difficult, more challenging, however you want to put that. I don't really consider any of them overly crazy difficult. Now, the one on the right, the chromatic, obviously, you can hit a lot more wrong notes. So if you want to say one of them is more difficult, go ahead and say that one. I want you to play the mountain dulcimer in any configuration you see below. I'm going to love it if you do so. Now, I teach a group of homeschool kids. I have 2 classes. One class is on their 2nd year and one class is in their 1st year. I teach them on cardboard mountain dulcimers, and they are configured like the 2nd mountain dulcimer there with the added 6.5. And we play in DAD. And why did I do that? I just did it because it's the most common. It's what they're going to see and what they're going to encounter if they go out and play with others. So, I think that about wraps it up for this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you have maybe have a greater understanding of what has went on in the evolution of a mountain dulcimer. And really, I just hope you love playing your mountain dulcimer. And if you don't have one yet, I hope you'll get one and try it out. If you play other instruments and find this interesting, yes, get you one. You'll enjoy it. Okay? All right, that about wraps it up. I do hope you enjoyed this video. And before I go, I always want to remind you that Jesus loves you. Bye-bye, y'all.